Stocks wilt under global pressures and wariness over COVID spread ahead of the Christmas weekend. Utilities and metals take a pounding, even as pharma and healthcare exhibit strength.
The Defence Acquisition Council clears capital purchases of 84,300 crores with over 82,000 crores marked for domestic supplies. The nod paves the way for large orders to defence vendors.
Stocks of pharmaceutical players are bid up in the light of growing concerns over rising COVID cases globally that would require treatment even if not severe. Some like Granules and Biocon also have positive tidings.
And Landmark Cars and Abans Holdings takes a drubbing on listing as investors turn cautious and valuations offer little comfort. This may also cloud sentiment for the new IPO offer by Radiant Cash Management. Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Sonia Shenoy and with me is Pavitra Parekh. Well, there's not much Christmas cheer here on Dalal Street. It's been a steep sell-off today with the bulls on the back foot and the Nifty recovering a tad bit from the lows of trade but still struggling around that 17,900 mark. It's a, sort of a cocktail of bad news, if you'd want to call it that. There's, of course, on one hand, been a lot of global pressure, especially from markets like the US, from Europe, as well as in Asia this morning. The macro data across the globe, whether it's inflation in Japan or even data across the US, indicates that there are perhaps more rate hikes coming. And back home, there's also a bit of COVID fears that are resurfacing after what's happening in China. So altogether, not looking good, and we're heading towards the end of the year, so people perhaps booking out.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So it's definitely still struggling at those lower levels. What has seen a recovery are some of the Asian markets. So the Hang Seng market now pretty much at the flat line. That one has seen quite a good recovery. But for our own markets, there doesn't seem to be any side of that. If you're really looking for green, it's perhaps the pharma pack, which is offering a little bit of that. But for everything else, you're seeing sharp cuts come through. In fact, Prashant is also here now. And Prashant, just level after level being broken on the downside.
Absolutely. I mean, we are basically, the day's low is very close to the 100-day moving average, guys, which basically that's the level. 17,840 is the 100-day. And the low which was made was 17,857. So not quite hitting that 100-day, but almost there. And then there's been a bit of a rebound which has come through. Now, just a few other things before, we kind of look at what else, right? So the top losers today are some of the stuff which has done the best. PSU banks, for example. There is momentum on the downside, and on a day like today, it's picked up more. This is typical. Small caps, mid caps taking it on the chin. Metals, which is a very high beta sector, falling as well. Market breadth. I mean, this was a signal yesterday, and yesterday, after many days, market breadth was extremely poor. Some 8:1 declines to advances. Today, it's poor again, 10:1. Declines to advances. So this is, an overall kind of pressure on the market. Global indices, it's not as if, they're doing anything spectacular on the downside, but at least the big ones are all down between 0.5% and 1%. Here also, 200 points on the Nifty is 1%. I mean, roughly about 1% or so. And what we're seeing globally also is largely in line with that. I just want to make one point. Around this time, right, 23rd, 24th, 25th, can't pinpoint a day. Typically, if you go back the last 5 or 6 years, there is a bit of a bounce which starts to come through, which lasts all the way, it varies, January 10th, January 15th, and the gains also vary. I looked back and looked at the last 6 years, the lowest was about 1.5%, and in this period, the next 15 days or so, the lowest was 1.5%, and the highest was about 12-13% or so. So, will we get that bounce is a question, but typically we do get that. History suggests that you don't see big declines. You actually see either very small gains or slightly meaningful gains as well. I would say, that around the 100-day, the market kind of stabilizes a little bit and doesn't go much lower. There is no new information on which the market is correcting. It's just some excesses being taken out. People are blaming the COVID situation, etc. But that could be one thing in the mix. But I think it's just perhaps an excuse to take some profits off, lock in some profits as the year comes to a close. Just as we end this year-to-date changes as well. All of this is not very different, except the fact that what has changed is the mid-cap index dipped briefly into the red for the year. And the last I checked, it was up about 0.25% or so. The Nifty has got only 3% left on it. And you've got the Nifty bank and small cap indices up on it. Banks, of course, are the stronger of the lot. And for the year, they're still up some 18% or so. We'll see if we get that bounce into the year. But if it has to come, I mean, it's, today, tomorrow, in the next couple of days, we should see that. Back to you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Prashant, for that. The other thing we're noticing is that the cash market volumes are on the higher side, and that's not a good thing, the market falling on high volumes. So we're already clocked in over 37,000 crores in terms of cash market volumes, and we still have the rest of the day to go. Also, the advance decline ratio is one of the weakest we've seen in the last many days at 1:12 in favor of the advances. The next level to watch perhaps is the 200-day moving average, which now stands at 17,177. Of course, it's still a long way off. It's over 900, about 800 points off. But with the ferocity at which the sell-off has come through in the last couple of days, this is perhaps the next level that you can watch. Let's move on, though. The Defence Acquisition Council has cleared acquisition proposals worth over 84,000 crore rupees, with procurements worth 82,000 crores to be completed through indigenous sources. Vahishta, my colleague, is joining in to tell us more on that. Vahishta, over to you.
Well, there is some big news coming in for the defence sector, wherein, as you mentioned, the Defence Acquisition Council has given the approval for 24 capital acquisition proposals, and the proposal is worth over 84,000 crores. Now, these proposals include 6 for the Indian Army, 6 for the Indian Air Force, 10 for Indian Navy, and 2 for the Indian Coast Guard. Now, this includes products such as the long-range guided bombs, advanced surveillance systems, combat vehicles, light tanks, mounted gun systems, and many more. Now, interestingly, 21 out of the 24 proposals, which is worth approximately 82,000 crores, are approved for procurement from indigenous sources, which means a big positive for our defense PSUs. Now, ICICI Securities has a view that the announcement for next-gen offshore patrol vessels, anti-ship missiles was already expected earlier. And the brokerage feels that the potential beneficiaries from this announcement could be the likes of Bharat Electronics, Bharat Dynamics, Garden Reach Shipbuilders, Solar Industries, and also L&T Defence. In fact, we hosted the management of L&T Defence today morning, and they have said that of the 24 proposals, L&T Defence could be a beneficiary of 10 proposals, which is a big announcement. The orders will also include products like FICV, light tanks, mounted guns, vessels for Coast Guard, which L&T and Defence could be manufacturing. The company has already invested 8,000 crores in 7 defence factories as capex in the past. So they already have the existing capacity to cater to the newer products which could come in the pipeline. And from this new announcement, the company expects sizable orders to flow in the next 1 year, and next 3 to 4 years is the timeline when the revenues could start flowing in. Also, they have said that the government's focus on the defense sector as a whole has been increasing, and there is a potential for it to grow in double digits CAGR at least until FY26.
All right, Vahishta, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on this story. But with that, let's now talk about the 2 new listings on the street. First up, premium segment car dealer Landmark Cars listed on the bourses today. The stock made a weak debut. It's currently trading with losses of around 8%. So earlier today, we spoke with Sanjay Thakkar, who's chairman at Landmark Cars, to understand the road ahead for the company post-listing and where they really see business headed. So let's listen into that.
If you kind of go back last several years, this has been growing at a pace of 20% or more year on year. So this is something which is a 40% gross profit, 18% EBITDA margin business. 1 in 3 cars that you see on the road meets with an accident every single year. We'll get maybe 65,000 accident repair jobs this year. Now this is something which is a high margin, predictable business. 30% of what we have done so far is by way of M&A. So, I'm sure a lot of other doors will open up, and we will go to geographies and brands that we haven't yet represented. So, in the after-sales business, we do 2 things. One is we sell spare parts and accessories, and the other is where we sell our services, which is what we call the labor addition to a service bill. So as far as the spare parts is concerned, the margins are in the region of around 20% to 25%, depending on what brand, what spare parts that you are selling.
Okay, so despite a weak listing, the management is actually very confident about the business. They say that it's a 40% gross profit margin business and 18% EBITDA margin business, and they're going to stick to being a luxury car dealer. Going forward as well. I guess the only reason why the stock is under pressure is because of the valuations. There seems to be no headroom. There's no listed peer, so we can't compare, but Landmark, as we speak, is trading at about 28 times PE as of FY22, so perhaps limited valuation headroom there. Staying with the listings, though, diversified global financial services business Aban's Holdings made quite a dismal debut on the exchanges, listing with losses of around 15% to its issue price. But also, we have a lot of action in the primary markets. Cash logistics player Radiant Cash Management's 387 crore rupee IPO opened for subscription today. Earlier, we spoke to the company's chairman and managing director, Colonel David Devasahayam. Let's listen in to this, to him talking about the company's plans.
The current EBITDA margins that we are resting with 84 crores of revenue and 25.5% of EBITDA and over 18% of PAT. That is clearly the future. I can indicate, our growth is driven by the number of pickup points that we have. I don't think there's any stress on working capital as of now, and that will be clearly indicated by the interest that we've been paying.
All right, that is the management of Radiant Cash Management. But with that, we have to get into our first short break on the show. On the other side, the government is reviewing the COVID preparedness in the country as cases spike across China and a few other Asian countries. We'll get you more on that when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Now, with this surge in COVID cases being reported in several parts of the world right now, especially in China, authorities in India have also been put on high alert. In fact, my colleague Abhimanyu is here to tell us how the government is really preparing in case there's another possible COVID outbreak in the country. Abhimanyu?
The Union government is carefully watching the COVID situation in China and the rising number of COVID cases in the neighboring country. On the 27th of December, mock drills will be conducted across various hospitals in India to check for operational preparedness to deal with a possible COVID outbreak. The Union Health Minister as well as state health ministers will remain present when mock drills will be conducted, and various aspects of COVID treatment will be covered, right from the admission of COVID positive patients to administering of oxygen and various other medicines to COVID positive patients. The Union Health Minister is also slated to meet representatives of the Indian Medical Association and other stakeholders in the health sector on the 26th of December. An ICMR study is also underway right now to check if there is any link between COVID vaccines and various cases of cardiac arrest to people who have taken the COVID vaccine. Government sources have also indicated that the centre has approved COVID's nasal vaccine, and the option for nasal vaccine for COVID is likely to be introduced on the CoVIN app today. It remains to be seen what other steps will be initiated by the centre as well as state governments to check for operational preparedness and prepare the country to deal with a possible COVID outbreak, even as several measures have been intensified at airports and various other places across India to ensure that COVID cases do not spread.
All right, that's the government trying to be as prepared as it can be for in case the COVID situation goes out of hand. But moving on, the Parliament has been adjourned 6 days ahead of schedule, and just like the monsoon session, this time too we didn't see much business happening in the Houses of Parliament. Parikshit is here to tell us more. Parikshit, over to you.
Well, yes, we have been seeing repeated disruptions of the House. The opposition had been demanding a discussion on the India-China clashes in Tawang. Manish Tiwari, Mallikarjun Kharge, several Congress leaders, leaders of the TMC and other opposition parties had been submitting adjournment motion asking for a discussion, a full-fledged discussion on the floor of the House. That did not happen. The government says that the House has been adjourned sine die ahead of schedule after full consensus with all political parties. The Lok Sabha functioned for about 68.9 hours and Rajya Sabha for 72 hours. We didn't see any significant government business being transacted. There were 25 bills that had been identified for being taken up during this session. 7 were to be introduced. Only 2 of those major bills we saw them being passed in Parliament. One was the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill, which was pending since the last session. It was passed in the Rajya Sabha. And then you had the Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order Bill 2022. This was passed by Parliament. So we didn't see any significant legislation being passed in those 10 or 11 days that the Parliament really took place.
All right, Pariksha, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details here. But with that, we have to take another short break on the show. You don't go anywhere. There's lots more news and updates coming up for you on the other side.
Well, there's no stopping this sell-off. It's pretty much a free flow on the downside, actually. A free fall, if you'd want to call it that. The Nifty is now below the 17,900 mark, 230 points gone, and the Sensex is now over 700 points lower. But we'll keep tracking the action in the markets for you. The other action is happening on the IPL front. The mini auction is here. That means 10 teams with varying purse sizes and with specific player requirements will be sitting around the auction table, hoping to cough out just enough to complete their cricketing teams. How much could these teams spend, and who are the big-ticket cricketers to watch out for? My colleague Jude Sanith has some numbers and names. Take a look.
Well, let's take a look firstly at how the numbers game stacks up. 405 players feature in the auction for 2023, and they're vying for just about 87 slots, and this includes 30 overseas player slots, which means it's a case of teams spending big money to get the cricketers they really want in order to complete their squads. And who are these names? Well, it seems that all-rounders are the flavors of the season, which is why the likes of Ben Stokes, Shakib Al Hasan, Kyle Jamieson and Jason Holder could well go for big money, even as these teams want hard-hitting players who can do a bit of batting and bowling both. But interestingly enough, let's also take a look at purse sizes, because we're seeing a varying purse size across squads. The likes of, Punjab Kings have the highest purse at about 32.2 crore rupees remaining, while KKR has the smallest purse remaining at just about 7.05 crore. In terms of slots left, also we're seeing some degree of variation. Teams like KKR again, and of course the Lucknow Super Giants have, slots numbering close to 14, while Delhi Capitals has the smallest slots, fewest slots left rather, at just about slots for the entire team. But interestingly enough, this year sees a new rule, that of the impact player, a player that will come in the middle of the game as a substitute of sorts and hope to create a difference, and that can only be an Indian player, unless of course a rare circumstance arises, which is why you could see some Indian talent in the auction also being a favorite. But for the moment, all-rounders seem to be the big flavor of the season as the auction gets underway a little later today.
All right, Jude, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on this auction ahead of, it starting later in the day. But with that, let's move on and bring you something else that's exciting. It is Friday, and as part of our Weekender series, Mangalam visited the top management of Domino's and Jubilant Foodworks to learn more about the Domino story in India. And he was also quite pleasantly surprised when he tried to test out the new pizza maker's 20-minute promise. So take a look at that.
Have you thought of dine-in, which is almost a quarter of your revenues, which is, not unsubstantial?
Yeah, more than that, actually. I think dine-in, again, we want to be where customers want to go. If they want to order online and get it delivered, come into the store, take away, or dine in. And you will see our store experiences have improved materially over the last 3 or 4 years. We worked with some of the best designers in the world to give a great dining experience. For example, we opened a store in IIT Mumbai, which is a container store.
Okay.
And we have pizza vans. So I think the formats will continue to innovate, but will follow the customer.
And have you tried any of these Indian innovations that he's talking about?
All of them, which is why my coat is zipped a little bit. The Prada pizza for me is my favorite.
What non-Domino's QSR product do you like the most? And it need not be the one with Jubilant Foodworks.
Okay, I would say Popeyes, but I do like burger from McDonald's.
And Popeyes itself, I mean, what's your immediate plan on that one?
So we're getting great traction and feedback from our customers. We're constantly expanding our store network in South. The trick of serving a good high quality product is actually not in the front end, but also in the back end. As we build our commissaries, build our food factories, which is being underdeveloped, we'll expand Popeyes rapidly.
When is your next trip to India?
I need to be invited, so you tell me. 2,000 stores?
Yep, why not?
When does that be?
I think we should get there in about 12 to 18 months.
Investors watching you for the first time, your final thoughts?
I think I'm firstly truly blessed to be over here. I've inherited a great team and a great partnership with Domino's and Russell. So doubling down on Domino's, expanding the cuisine, making sure we have a great Popeyes and we can homegrown to a couple of other brands. I think that's what I'm going to focus on and lead with technology and analytics.
Oh wait, there's a distraction. The pizza's here already?
It came in 19 minutes, by the way.
19 minutes. Well, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you, sir. I think one of this is the paratha pizza for you, the one that you really liked. And this one's mine. So, yes, you lived up to your promise. Actually, you said 20 minutes and now it's out in 19 minutes itself. So it works for now. But all right. Thank you so much. This was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell.
Okay, well, you can watch that entire interview this weekend at 7 p.m. tonight, actually. You don't have to wait too long. But that's got us hungry, thinking about all that pizza. But you know what? 20 minutes is fine. The paratha pizza is something which I just can't digest. I mean, a pizza is a pizza and a paratha is a paratha, right?
I know.
Mixing the two, I don't know. It's maybe not my taste.
Maybe you should try it. I'm going to make sure you try it.
Let's see how that goes. All right, guys, we're taking that lunch break. Thanks a lot for watching. And Midcap Radar comes up next.